You're listening to For the Record with Tess Heard. I'm Tess Heard, and this is For the Record. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of For the Record with Tess Heard. I'm Tess Heard, and this is For the Record. This week, we are kicking off what's going to be kind of a random series. I am going to be doing cases local to me. So it's going to be a little different, and it's not going to be consistent per se, because there are other cases that I want to cover outside of local cases. But this one really does hit close to home. It is one that I have been following since day one. It's something that really needs to be talked about. It needs to have more light brought to it. And I just really hope that this will help bring that light and hopefully be able to get some answers. So without further ado, let's dig in. Nestled 78 miles south of Nashville, 171 miles east of Memphis, and 154 miles west of Chattanooga, is a town that's known for David Crockett and Fred Thompson. With a population of around 14,000, Lawrenceburg, Tennessee is, quote, mixed with small town friendliness and big city bustle, from Tennessee.gov. From David Crockett days in the early summer to the Christmas parade each winter, second Saturdays on the town square, Christmas in the country at the Rotary Club, and the back roads of Etheridge and Summertown's Amish community, it's a town that would seem to be a pretty nice place to live. While there isn't a ton for people to do, living close to a few bigger cities such as Nashville and Huntsville, Alabama, it's a place where families come to raise their families and make their home. If you drive down Highway 43, you'll find a plethora of banks, car lots, Mexican restaurants, and churches. Every corner has at least one, and some of them have all four. Walmart is the place to hang out. The movie theater is where families spend their weekends, and the park is where you'll find campers from all over the country throughout the year. In the past decade, things have slowly grown, making room for new hotels, new businesses, and a lot of new faces. Lawrenceburg also holds their very own weather center, Tennessee Valley Weather, with Tennessee's very first dual-pole Doppler weather radar. If you're a weather junkie like myself, you'll know that's kind of a pretty big deal. The town of Lawrenceburg isn't fancy. The people are relatively friendly, and the southern charm can be found at almost any business you visit. But this town also has a dark side. It doesn't take much digging to learn that the crimes that occur in this town aren't what you'd expect to find in a small Tennessee town. Lawrenceburg is my hometown. I was born here. I spent the majority of my life here. I met my husband here. I go to church here. I have watched my family grow here. I've made friends here. I've experienced life in this town, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, except maybe London, England, but that's a different story for a different day. But it's time that some of these secrets of this town are exposed. I expect to get a lot of slack for this episode and ones to come in the future, but I'm tired of pretending that the facts don't exist. It's time to tell the truth, and we're going to get into some pretty sketchy stuff. So are you ready to dig in with me? This week, we're talking about the case of Janson Brewer. Janson Alex Brewer was born on June 29th, 1989. A family man through and through, Janson never went a day without calling and checking in with his mom and brothers. A dad to three beautiful children, one of which tragically passed away due to a medical condition. Jansen always put his family first. He was the kind of person who would give you the shirt off his back if you needed it. He radiated kindness, and whenever he walked into a room, people gravitated towards him. He would talk to you like he'd known you your whole life, like you'd been best friends for ages. Jansen was a pure soul, and anyone who knew him knew he had a heart of gold. While he wasn't a perfect human being, I mean, come on, who is? He never let his shortcomings prevent him from being the best person, son, brother, and father he could be. As I said before, Jansen was a family man. His kids were his everything, and he would always call and check in with them at least once a day. Same with his mother and his brothers. Whether that was just to say hi or to have long, drawn out conversations, he never failed to make those phone calls on a daily basis. So when the phone call suddenly stopped on August 16th, 2016, his family immediately knew something wasn't right. They thought that he may have been somewhere without cell phone service, so they didn't worry too much. But after the day came closer to an end and they still hadn't heard from him, their concern grew and they decided to call the police just to be on the safe side. The police told the family that they couldn't do anything for 72 hours, which that is such a stupid rule. If you know someone and you know they wouldn't just run off or stop calling, that should be enough. You shouldn't have to wait 72 hours. They say that the first 48 hours that someone is missing is like the most vital. So why do we have to wait 72 hours before we can report someone missing? That doesn't make sense to me. But Jansen's family waited the 72 hours with no word from him. And after they hit that 72-hour mark, they went back to the police to file a missing persons report. I was actually able to speak with Jansen's brother Josh this week, and he gave me the complete rundown on that fateful day in August when Jansen went missing. And those are the details that I'm going to share with you today. On August 15th, 2016, the day before Jansen went missing, he was supposed to go fishing. He'd called his other brother and asked if he had any worms. His other brother was going to go with them, but he ended up having to work. So Jansen and two of his friends were going to go. Jansen never did get back in touch with his brother, though, leaving his brother's messages unread on Facebook. His family never did hear from him after that day either. The following day, one of Jansen's friends came over to the house, and Josh said he was acting really weird. He said he'd lost his wallet in a field, which really didn't make any sense because he was supposed to have been with Jansen. The friend stated that Jansen dropped him off at home and left, and he hadn't heard anything or seen him since. This is when Jansen's family went to the police and were told they had to wait that 72 hours. During that time frame, they waited, and no one, not Josh, his mom, his kids, or anyone else in the family heard anything, despite trying to reach him relentlessly. Josh said that after the 72 hours, they went on the hunt and filed a missing persons report. They searched everywhere they could think of, from farms to caves and everywhere in between. There was nothing pointing anyone in any direction to where Jansen could have gone. Josh said the only thing anyone found was Jansen's cell phone, which was found in a yard out by the airport. Now, this was also kind of weird because the place where Jansen was supposed to have gone fishing was south of Lawrenceburg, down in a tiny, almost like a sub-town called Iron City. When they found the cell phone, it had been smashed and it had been left out in the rain, so it wasn't working. But I asked Josh if they had tried to pull anything from the cell phone, and he said that he really didn't think that they had. Now, I know that shows like NCIS and Criminal Minds, they're not legit, they're not real. While technology has made a lot of crazy improvements over the last few years, not everything is as high tech as the TV shows make it out to be. But aren't there ways to recover data from a cell phone even if it's been destroyed? I mean, they find stuff on cameras and computers all the time. If you look at the case of Jodi Arias when she killed her boyfriend, she took a whole bunch of pictures of him after he was dead and then threw the camera in the washing machine and ran the washing machine trying to get rid of the evidence. But they were still able to pull the pictures from the memory card. So, unless if the SIM card was gone or it had been completely destroyed, I don't see how they didn't, or why they didn't even attempt to pull anything off of it. And even if they couldn't pull anything directly off of it, couldn't they have looked at the phone company to see where his locations may have pinged at throughout the day? Because I'm pretty sure even with like prepaid phones, it's going to bounce off of whatever tower it's closest to, right? So why didn't they try to do anything? That really just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And that really, really made me have a lot more questions and even less answers. Days before Janson went missing, he had told Josh that someone had threatened to kill him over drugs. But according to Josh, Janson wasn't into drugs. He had had a few run-ins with police in the past, but it was over fights with his then girlfriend. And even that wasn't like domestic abuse. It was just the girlfriend calling the cops on him to get him to, I guess, scare him or something. So why was this guy trying to come after him if Janson wasn't even doing drugs? I don't get that. But I don't think anybody gets that. Rumors began to fly. And let me tell you, the rumors were insane. When Josh first started telling me some of these things, I just sat there with my jaw open, like, how, just how, and why. One of the rumors was that one of the friends that Janson had been with, Daniel Braden, who also went by the name Sean, had ties in Florida. It had been reported that the two had taken off to Florida, but the TBI and Florida police looked into it, and neither of them found any evidence leading to any sightings or anything that would put the two of them in, at, or in between Tennessee and Florida. It was also reported that Janson was killed and his body was fed to hogs on someone's farm. Now, why, if you didn't know that for sure, like if you didn't know that, why would you tell somebody whose loved one is missing that that's what happened to their loved one? Why would you do that? That is horrible. That is absolutely horrible. All of this is horrible, but that's horrible. Josh said that cadaver dogs were brought in, but nothing was ever found. They didn't find any scent or any type of DNA or anything like that where this farm was at. Someone had said that Janson was killed and his body was dismembered and scattered all over the place. Again, why would you tell someone that that's what happened to their family member? Why would you do that? No evidence was found of that, though. Another tip said that his body had been taken and placed in a cave. But Josh said he searched every cave he can find and nothing has come up. I asked him if there had been any leads whatsoever that have led to any kind of actual information, and he said, quote, none at all. He also said that now, nearly 7 years later, the police aren't even talking to him or his mom or any of their family. They've had no information, no updates, and the case has pretty much just been left hanging. This whole ordeal has me really questioning our local law enforcement. Now, I am not the type of person who typically, rags on police. I know that for the most part, the police are good people. I firmly believe that. I know that there are bad police out there, and I am not oblivious to that. But I do think that for the most part, there are more good than bad ones. However, if you look at some of the other cases that have happened more recently, just look at Gannon Stouck or even the McFadden massacre. The entire country, even we can even probably say parts of the world, knew about those cases. And people from all over were searching. There were people all over Colorado and everywhere remotely close to it searching for Gannon when he went missing. And they continued to search until his body was found in Florida. And even while the police dropped the ball in Oklahoma at first, they didn't hesitate to issue an Amber Alert for Ivy Weber and Brittany Brewer. And once the FBI got involved and reopened the case, things really started to pick up speed. I'm definitely going to have to do an update episode on that, but that's not what we're here to focus on. And I understand that those two cases involve children, and whenever it does involve a child, people are more likely to respond to that and react to that because it's a child. But Janson is somebody's son, he's somebody's brother, he's somebody's father, he's a friend, he's a neighbor, he's a part of the community. Why wouldn't the community and the law enforcement in that community want to do everything that they possibly could? Why haven't they done more? And I understand that you can only do so much with what information you have. I get that. But just look at the cell phone, for instance. Why didn't they do anything with the cell phone? Could they not have tried to pull some kind of prints off of it? Could they not have tried to figure out what had caused it to end up in such rough condition? And if they did do all that, how come they haven't told Janson's family? It just doesn't make sense. It was 2016. Businesses had security cameras. They had the CCTV. They have traffic cameras. Why couldn't they have looked at that to try to get an idea of where he was? The sad part is that Janson came into the store that I was working at either the day of or a few days before he went missing. I was a cashier, so I saw him. I spoke to him. He was the absolute nicest customer that I'd had that day. Everyone else that day was in their top grouch mode, and he stood out to me because he was so nice. Like, He was just the nicest dude. So a few days later, whenever I saw his picture on Facebook saying that he was missing, I immediately put in a tip to the tip line, but police never got in touch with me. They never called or came to the store or anything. And I just wonder if they would have, they could have looked on our CCTV footage and they could have seen him. Maybe they could have used where he was at then on that day to make up some kind of timeline about where he was. If they'd used the cell phone towers to ping his location in the days before, they could have had a better idea of what he was doing, where he was at, who he was with. And again, that just, none of this makes sense. How can you know that somebody is missing, know that they had been seen, know that you have at least one piece of evidence? I mean, what if there were phone calls on there? What if there were phone numbers on there that could have led to something? What if there were text messages or emails or something? I feel like the cell phone should have been, they should have done everything they could have to pull any kind of information off of that cell phone. And I just don't understand why they didn't. And even if they couldn't do it specifically at the local police department, they were in connection with the TBI, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. Why couldn't the TBI do that? Don't they have some sort of lab where they can do work like that? There has to be more that's not being told. There has to be information out there somewhere. Somebody has to know something. And it is just absolutely tearing me apart that this family has been going through this for almost 7 years now with absolutely no answers. This mother has had to wonder every day where her son is at. These brothers have had to ask every day, what happened to my brother? These children have had to ask, what happened to my father? Where is my dad? And there's no answers to give them. The fact is that a father, a son, a brother, a friend is still missing. The fact is that the family still has no answers, no leads, no clue what happened to their loved one. Janson was 28 years old when he went missing. He was 28 years old, you guys. 28. Okay? That is so young. He was just figuring out life. He was figuring out fatherhood. He was figuring out the ups and downs of this crazy world that we live in. He didn't have a chance to watch his kids grow up. He didn't have a chance to see them fall in love for the first time or get married or have their own children. And the fact that they have to grow up knowing that their father loved them so much, but was taken from them for an unknown reason, I can't imagine the heartache that that would hold in their hearts. I just can't. And as much as this has hurt me to get this information and to try to piece together some of the questions, his family has had it 100 times worse. They're the ones who are being denied information. They're the ones who aren't able to get any answers. And they have been relentlessly and tirelessly searching all this time. Janson was last known to be driving a gray Ford Ranger. They have never found him or his vehicle. The friend that he was supposed to be with, he has also been missing the same amount of time. If you know anything about what happened to Janson or have any information at all that could help his family find answers, please call the Lawrenceburg Police Department at 931 762 3626, the Criminal Investigation Division at 931 762 1608, or the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation at 615-744-4000. Thank you. You can find photos of Janson on the Facebook page at For the Record with Tess Heard. I will also have all of the phone numbers for reporting tips listed there as well. Please, you guys, I don't know how else to ask this other than share this, share the post on Facebook. It doesn't matter if you are from Tennessee. It doesn't matter if you're in California or if you're in another country. Somebody out there knows something. And this family absolutely deserves to get some kind of answers. I truly just cannot imagine the struggle that they have had to go through with this. And I am praying for their family and praying that they will find the closure, that they will find answers, and that they will be able to have justice for whatever happened to Janson. And that is going to conclude this first episode of our random series. I think I'm going to call it Hometown Horrors. I think that's kind of fitting. But like I said, if you have any information, please, 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 please call in to the tip line, or if you're uncomfortable with that, reach out to me on our Facebook page and I will get the information where it needs to go. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe and leave your girl a review, because you know that helps her out a lot. I also just have to announce this. We are now available on multiple platforms: Google Play, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Apple, and of course, Spotify. So if you have friends that have those platforms and you want to share it, be sure to share it. Tell everybody, send them my way. I'm just trying to get the word out and hopefully get some answers for some families who need them. So you guys are awesome. Thank you so much to all of the listeners. I cannot wait to come back at you next week with another case. Until then, stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to For the Record with Tess Heard. I hope you decide to come back and give us another listen next week.